Okay, so I guess this is a podcast featuring myself, the Burning Blogger, James from crimesofempire.com, and Mark from Truthscoop.net. Um, and this is kind of being done on the fly, but this is sort of something that the three of us have talked about doing for a really long time, but have never really gotten around to it. And I figured that right now, as my new website is about to launch online, would be a really good time for the three of us to record something and to have a discussion. So just to get that information established right from the start, my old website, the Burning Blogger of Bedlam, was taken offline almost 2 years ago when I was deplatformed by WordPress during a censorship purge in the middle of 2019. And so I basically haven't really published anything since then, but I've been working for many months, aided massively by a supporter and friend of mine in establishing a new website. And after a great deal of time and work and a lot of hurdles and obstacles along the way, we're now basically ready. Burningblogger.com .com is ready and is about to go live in the next few days. So I figured this was a good time for us to get together and to record. And the plan is that this podcast will be live on the site when it launches. So yeah, I'm the Burning Blogger, formerly the Burning Blogger of Bedlam. James writes the superb Crimes of Empire website, crimesofempire.com. And Mark is the proprietor of truthscoop.net and another site. What's the other site, Mark?
Plantseed.org.uk.
There you go. And so that's my bullshit intro done and out of the way. And now we can just get into things and just talk. So we're going to have a conversation here. It's going to be a loose conversation about anything and everything we want. But to start with, about censorship and about the state of the alternative media and journalism and free speech in general, and the present landscape, I guess. And also, I guess, just this present moment in time in broad terms. So, yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. And we've already been talking off air, and some interesting thoughts have already been flowing. And James, I wanted to, because I was asking you just previously about your website, thecrimesofempire.com, and you said some interesting kind of stuff about how you're feeling about the state of the alternative media and conspiracy related research and online literature at the moment. And do you mind kind of elaborating a bit more on that as well? Because it was really interesting what you were saying.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I was just saying that I've become a little bit disheartened and felt that, like, I guess my feeling is that politics is not really going to be a fruitful. The party politics, the mainstream party politics, is not going to be a fruitful exercise for humanity. But unfortunately, a massive majority of people still believe in that, and so I sort of, so I just guess I was just honestly just whining about being a little bit disheartened. But what are your thoughts about censorship, about the topic, Saj? What's your opinion?
Well, I mean, I think that, as you were saying previously, that there's no doubt that the time we're in now, as far as the internet age goes, is the most censorship there's ever been going on across the board, right? Seemingly on all platforms as well, right? I mean, I know on YouTube there's been a massive purge of alternative kind of voices and information sources, and obviously on WordPress and since the presidential election, it's been happening on social media too. So it looks like there's increasingly few places to go to have a platform or to have a voice to get this kind of information out, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I wonder whether there's a point to just doing something else, because if you do what we're doing, we're perpetuating the very thing we're trying to stop, which is people's attention towards it, which is difficult, because if we don't critique it, no one will. But on the other hand, are we simply becoming part of a self-perpetuating cycle and process that we will never get out? We've got to go somewhere else to get to them, if you like.
Yeah. I mean, even in terms of.
Sorry.
No. Go ahead. No, go ahead, James.
No, you go, please. Sorry.
Well, even in terms of, I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't have been on Parler because it's not that. It's not really my camp. But even that getting shut down. I mean, that was set up, as I understand it, as an alternative platform for people who were being censored from other platforms.
Yes.
Right, and then that shut down. So I mean, like, even there really does seem to be nowhere to go, really.
In terms of social media, yeah. Like, actually, I saw I've given up on YouTube, though I still visit the site, but I don't really look for stuff. I just watch crap on YouTube, and I went to so I started using brand YouTube was one that I sort of tried to start using because I never really felt, a bit like you with Parler. I never really felt like BitChute was really like for me sort of thing. Like, even though I wanted it to be, I didn't really feel like it. But if you actually use brand YouTube and BitChute, they're actually kind of censored too. They're not censored to the same extent as YouTube, but they're really quite censored. I actually had just a funny experience of trying to watch. Someone uploaded David Cole's visit to Auschwitz to brand YouTube, and I thought, oh, that's, I haven't watched that in like 8 years or something. That's kind of interesting. I tried to click on it and watch it, and it wouldn't play, and it said something about like you're not in the right country or something.
Yeah.
And it was still on YouTube, and like I actually watched it, and like that's not my my bag really at all. But it was perfectly mild and reasonable. Like, it wasn't like he was saying anything horrible in the slightest. But yeah, anyone who says anything about Israel, being an apartheid state, which is pretty much an uncontroversial claim at this time, given that like there are Israeli human rights groups that say that, it's like you're a vicious, you want to, you're a bad person, you hate Jewish people, and and that's the end of it. And I think that's kind of set the trend in general. Like, that they were kind of the Zionist lobby was kind of at the forefront of that, but they've now been supplanted by the kind of the globalists, I guess. I mean, it's crazy that YouTube won't let a Donald Trump speech basically be posted on YouTube at this point in time. I mean, they still show up on small channels, but I mean, he definitely, for better or worse, represents the political mainstream. I mean, he was just the president, but they're like, no, that's we can't. I mean, that would 2-3 years ago, that would be reserved for even like David Irving or someone considered to be really out there would be allowed on YouTube. You know what I mean? Like, they've really moved the goalposts quite radically there.
Well, they were cutting off Trump's speech in the mainstream news channels. I mean, and that was pretty extraordinary. I mean, whether you like him or not, and I don't, but he's still the president. At that point, he's the president of the United States, and he's being cut off, like mid-speech, which is extraordinary.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, even like the false flag stuff, you can't really even say false flag anymore. I mean, I'm pretty convinced that's why my website was taken down, because of all the false flag stuff. And interestingly, I was while I've been trying to establish the new website, I was looking into possible, advertising and stuff like that, and Google ads and all that, just to see if I could get some kind of revenue stream going on. And I was looking through Google ads. Their guidelines and stuff about the criteria that would get you that would make you not eligible for it, or that will get you banned. And right down the bottom of the list, it was like, any content that suggests that a terrorist attack that didn't take place, or was something other than what the mainstream has said it was, will make you ineligible for advertising. And so I just thought that was interesting, because I'm sure that wasn't there a couple of years ago, but now it is. So
yeah, and that video you had taken down, that was extraordinary. The video, it was an Epstein related one, I believe, and it was really very moderate. It wasn't rough at all.
No,
that disappeared like 2 days later or something.
Yeah, it wasn't the Epstein one. It was a false flag one. There was basically 2 years ago, I think, there was a minor incident in London, in central London, um, that was
Oh,
supposedly a
that's
terror
right. That's
attack.
right. Near
Yeah,
the bridge, near the Parliament.
yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that got taken
Yeah.
down very quickly. And the one that I did on the Paris attacks had been up for about 3 years, but that got taken down around the same time. So yeah, I think they're just going for false flag stuff at that point and just removing all of that stuff.
Hey,
Yeah, I
what?
think with your website, it must have been either the Sri Lanka thing or more likely the New Zealand thing, I believe. But I don't think you wrote anything really out there at all about certainly about the New Zealand thing. It was
No. I mean, I'm pretty tame compared to a lot of people. So,
Yeah, you were.
as I recall, I didn't even suggest that it never happened. You know, I didn't suggest that the attack never happened or anything like that. So, yeah,
yes, yeah. No, you almost just raised some questions. It was really just at that level of just this seems a bit, or like with the I remember the video now well about the London thing. You were just talking about isn't it odd that all these incidents have happened here and the cameras never work. That was pretty much the crux of it. Like it wasn't some.
Yeah, but that
yeah,
makes it
yeah.
the fiercest though. That's why it was the fiercest.
Well, in the space of like 2 years, there were 3 terror attacks in the same area, and it happens to be the area where the CCTV has been switched off since 3 years ago. So, I just raised that point. That's all. And
Yeah, in the most CCTV intensive city in the world, basically,
yeah,
I would suggest
in a sensitive area.
I suggest for documentation, you two, when I could help too, could put together the comprehensive and definitive understanding of what happened on the internet in terms of censorship and false flags, because that has not been written up. The PK truth going down with the Nice thing and the whole history. I've tried to mention it, but that, apart from what I've mentioned, has not been documented. So it is still a kind of assumed narrative or two, depending on whether you're the right or the left or whatever, that you were the roots of this censorship. It's not true. And that the people who were involved in all of that, the Sandy Hook times, and that's all disappeared. So that witness has gone. That's whatever it is, isn't it? A con something or other, spiracy, puzzle and paradox that the very people who got thrown off first of all are now not understood, and so there's a revision of history to exclude them. And
Sure.
you included, and your articles, which weren't one of 10. They weren't one of a dozen articles about the things. It wasn't a difficult, like big, small fish and big pond, or the opposite. Anyway, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, so Sage, what steps have you taken to make sure, or to at least as much as possible, to ensure that won't happen to you again with the new website? How have you gone about that?
Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, so basically, I mean, there's someone who's basically been helping me massively with all this on the technical side and all that. And most of it, in terms of security and stuff, most of it is in his hands. I don't really, because I'm not tech savvy. I don't really understand this stuff very well. All I really know is that the server is not in the United States or in the UK or in Europe. So that's all I know. And he's basically assured me that the way he sorted this out is that there shouldn't be any danger of any kind of takedown or anything like that. And also, I'm backing up all the content now regularly. So even if it does get taken down, all the content will still be alive in some form, and I'll just have to re-upload it somewhere else. In a worst case scenario.
Yes. So Mark actually was telling me that you'd managed to retrieve all of the previous burning blogger work that you that have been things you've been doing for the past year or two. Is that going to be?
That's why it took so long, because it was the process of that's why it's taken so long to get this new website sorted.
Did you give it a tidy up?
There was a lot of stuff with the formatting and stuff that I need to sort out, and I had to go through about 650 posts to try.
Oh, did you tidy me up?
No, I didn't touch it. I didn't touch your stuff, Mark. I wouldn't want to do that.
I'll have my people onto you soon if that's the case. Joking. Go on. I'll write a drill. I'll write a drill rap about it. I'll write a sad diss. Go ahead. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, it's all that little niggly stuff of like images and links don't work, and you have to correct the links and URLs and stuff, and just lots of stuff like that, formatting stuff. But it's stuff that takes quite a long time when you've got a big archive of stuff. So it's taken ages to do.
So, what form had you saved them in? How were you able to go about that?
Well, so on WordPress, you have the option to back up your content as regularly as you want. You go into export, and you can export your entire archive. And so if you do that fairly regularly, you'll always have like a kind of a hard copy of all your stuff. So even if they delete you or deplatform you, you've got something that you can then import into your next website, your next location, or wherever that's going to be. The only problem is that stuff is only basically that stuff only works with WordPress software, which I didn't know that at the time. So I naively thought that I could just export that site and upload it to some other platform, that had nothing to do with WordPress, and apparently you can't do that. So it only works with WordPress software. So you don't have to be on WordPress.com or .org or anything like that, but you do have to use their related software in order to retrieve your content. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is sort of an ignorant question, but they didn't lock you out. They just didn't let you. They just removed your website. Everything else functioned as it had previously, basically.
They locked me out. They locked me out of being able to access the dashboard of the Burning Blogger of Bedlam. So like I couldn't. The backup that I took, the archive, was from about 2 weeks before they deplatformed me. After they deplatformed me, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have done anything. So.
Oh, brilliant! So that was really lucky in a way.
Yeah, it's just really lucky. It's just really lucky. If I hadn't done it 2 weeks earlier, I would have not had all this. I would have been lost pretty much.
Oh, that's a miracle.
So you're going to be so when the new site starts, you're going to be reposting everything.
Yeah, well, I won't. Yeah, just as soon as it launches, all the stuff will be there automatically, like from the past. It will still be there.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So it will just be like
that's great.
So you can start going back on the internet.
So you were really so it could have been a lot worse then. That's actually really that's great. That's actually great.
Yeah, and I know there were some other people for who it was a lot worse because they didn't actually do any backups, and they just got taken down in the middle of the night. They lost everything. So yeah. So basically when it goes live, the whole archive will basically be there, and it will all be the same. It will be as if I'd never gone anywhere, basically, except it will just look a bit different, and the layout and design and stuff is a bit different. It's a lot better actually. So yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. That's great. That's brilliant. I hadn't expected that. I'm really pleased for you because it would be doubly. I mean, in a way, that would even be a greater blow, if you know what I mean. Not that what happened wasn't absolutely reprehensible, but that would be a really. I mean, to lose all the work would be really devastating. Just to lose the platform is bad, but it's nowhere near as bad, I don't think.
Yeah, and that's why it's taken this long to sort out. But because that was the kind of the key thing, I didn't want to start from scratch because this was too demoralizing to start from scratch. No. And also a lot when I write, a lot of what I do is building on previous stuff, previous content and research. So it's kind of hard to start from scratch because the way I do it really links with everything else and builds up from previous material. So I'm not going to have that problem. I'm going to be able to just like link back to whatever I want and use my own stuff as reference and all that. So, yeah.
Oh, that's great. You're lucky to have someone that's helping you out too. That must be pleasing.
Yeah, and he really jumped in really quickly. He was he really jumped in really quickly and just like took a lot of control. I mean, he just wanted to see the site back online, and he wanted to carry on reading stuff and like all this stuff. So I owe that guy like a massive debt.
Man.
But with you, James, in terms of crimesofempire.com, I was just saying it like you were mentioning to me that like in a way that I got taken down, I was censored, whereas I feel like with you there's almost an element of self censorship almost, of a almost hesitating or hesitating to continue the work, the research, and the crusade.
Yeah, well, in terms of publishing, it's sort of after your site was taken down, I sort of felt actually that it would be wrong to keep going with WordPress, to be honest with you. I didn't stick to that. But it also just felt like to post more stuff on something that could just be yanked at any moment was sort of like throwing good money after bad, if you know what I mean. Like I realized that basically I'd made a mistake. Like I didn't think it through at the time that I started, but I'd made a mistake because I'd basically put myself in a place where it was, it could be disappeared at any time with for any reason. And
So
yeah,
saying,
sorry.
So are you saying what happened to me actually affected you, actually influenced you as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, and I mean, there were a couple of others I think that I noticed. I'm sure there were many more, but I noticed that happened to John Rappaport and it happened to Jay Dyer, and I just felt like, well, this is not a viable platform anymore, and I guess I should have just started again elsewhere. But actually, I wanted to ask you, how did you actually get into it? How did you start? What were the stories that inspired you, or was there some kind of disenchantment with the mainstream regular media, or something like that inspired you initially? What was the spark for you?
Disenchantment. I think when I started that blog, it wasn't even to begin with. I never even touched on politics or anything like that, or conspiracy stuff or anything. It was just a joke. It was just something for fun. And I would talk about really like dumb stuff. I would talk about science fiction and comic books and music and films and stuff like that. And then eventually, just like I started taking it more seriously and putting more serious stuff up, especially as the false flag stuff really started escalating, and that was really getting on my nerves. So I decided to write stuff about it and do some research, and the same with Libya and all that kind of stuff. It just got me going and it got the ball rolling, and then it just snowballed from there, really. I certainly didn't think I was going to end up in a position where I would have to be deplatformed because I was saying too much stuff, or because I was saying the wrong stuff, or anything like that. But yeah, it just shows you how quickly you can end up in that position.
Yes. You haven't been posting for the past year at the other site that you were still posting on regularly about that stuff. You obviously at some point decided to split the two off essentially, and to make the science fiction entertainment type element of it sort of the secondary thing, and you started the other site. I've got the type. I've got it.
Yeah. Because I kind of figured that they were two different audiences, and it wasn't really working having it together. Because the people who were into the other fun stuff are going to be like, why is he talking about this? Why is he talking about why is he talking about false flags? That's not what I signed up for. And on the other hand, the people who are into all that stuff are going to be like, why is he talking about Superman? What the hell's wrong with this guy? I don't want to read this stuff.
You sound like me, Saj. That sounds like me.
So I thought just split it all up, and I'll separate the two things. But now what I've done, so now the other site is going to get deleted. I'm going to just I've incorporated all that stuff back into the main site, so it's all just together.
Good.
And if people don't like it, whatever. Don't read it. Just read the stuff you like.
Put them off. It's guards people. It's a guard. If they're going to be put off by that, why should they take the rest? That's my attitude.
Well,
if you just ignore it. If you can't ignore that, then don't bother.
because there's people who say I want to take your stuff seriously, but I can see you're writing about Batman, so I don't.
Well,
I don't know.
that's
I
spoils
trust
for them.
Yeah.
His taste is not good in music, so can't accept what he's got to say about politics.
Yeah, all that kind of
He
stuff.
won't know. He just won't know.
But I don't care anymore, so whatever. I'll just have it all together in one place. Yeah, and you know, like if people aren't into that stuff, you know, don't click on it. Click on the other stuff.
I think it's smart. I actually think it's smart just to have. If you have it all together, basically you're helping the site out because you have the opportunity of like cross pollination, where someone will be interested in the sci-fi stuff and they'll come over and then they'll just be bored and they'll click on the other stuff. You know what I mean? And vice versa. And just I actually just think it's just beneficial to have new stuff posted as often as possible, you know, to try and get that thing, you know, which obviously I lost a long time ago, where people, you know, will check the site, you know, a couple of times a week, you know what I mean? You know, like, oh, gee, I'll go there, you know, and so even if it's not exactly what they were looking for, it's still a lot better if they can be like, oh yeah, he did that, you know what I mean? Like, oh, there's something new. It's not the same as what the page was, you know, the last time I visited. So I think you'll benefit from it.
Mm.
Yeah, actually, your stuff seemed to do pretty well too. Like, people seem to like the stuff. On B-Spin.
Yeah, it helps me because I can go out and fib on the streets and say, hey, you like music, go to Burning Blogger. And then they get the politics.
Yeah.
Sure.
Straight as that. Straight out like that. Straight in like that.
Yeah. But James, since we're all on the air together at the moment, Mark and me and you, I really feel like Crimes of Empire needs to.
Amen.
Yeah, and I know he'll back me up on that as well. Crimes of Empire needs to be more active and prolific. You know, not prolific, but you know, just there needs to be more going on because you're one of the best sites. You were one of the best sites out there, James. I'm not joking.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't, and I barely read anyone else's work ever, like in terms of regularly and all that kind of stuff. But yours was one of the very, very few that I did.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sure you're right. Yeah, I should try and do something. I actually don't feel like I want to keep going with that website. But yeah, I should definitely try starting a new website like you've done. And thank you, because I never actually knew about that export thing. I've actually just been like saving the individual, like the text URLs or whatever, you know what I mean? Like the text editor. I've just been like copying and pasting the text editor of every piece. And that was probably a really stupid way of doing it, but I didn't know better. But because I have been feeling like it wasn't going to last after what happened to you, because I was probably like a little bit more blatant in some of the, I lacked your subtlety, I would say, a little bit in some of the things I was saying. So if anyone decided to, you know, to scour stuff, or, you know, or maybe it was so small it wasn't even noticeable to them. But it's, no, I mean, thank you. I should definitely do something. I've kind of gotten into the habit of just working and like, you know, I come home and I sort of feel like I've done my thing, you know what I mean? Like, I've lost the ethic of it as well. But it's crazy actually, because I was actually a lot more value to society when I didn't have a job, when I was unemployed. I was actually making a lot more of a contribution to society, in my opinion.
Hey, man,
I'm like that's an interesting observation.
Now I'm like you know, I'm like a quote unquote legitimate person, you know what I mean? But I don't really contribute anything at all. It's kind of pathetic, but yeah, no, thank you. I definitely should try and do something. But I'm really looking forward to your site, because like it'll add like 25% to the sites I can visit. You know, it will.
And some.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I hope it goes. I hope my audience hasn't disappeared. That is the other thing, because I don't really know if I'm going to be able to get back the same kind of readership I had, but hopefully I can.
Pops into my mind. Okay, I was going to say something earlier about if you'd have asked me the question about the internet future. I was thinking about printed matter and on the streets, some printed versions. But I was noting it's Miles, what's his name, Mathis, you know, Mr. Throwball in the air, him. But he does PDFs, yeah. And that's an odd concept. He double spaces. I mean, I don't want to follow that, but I just think that I'm thinking more of PDFs printed. I'll be honest. And I'm wondering whether if I put those on the website as well, which I want to do on a tech site. So I've got a man, big up Mike in Oxford, James. If you want to get a site up doing WordPress, same deal, all on me, Bing. I can get that set up a bit more secure. You get the same thing as what Saj just said. Go on.
No, carry on.
I was going to say, I just kind of think that I kind of think the difficulty is why I didn't read a lot and got 1 O-level English language. I'm not a big reader and have been, and I'm sure you've read a lot more books than me, but I wonder why people aren't reading. And I think it's partly to do with all sorts, but it's to do with reading on the internet certain things of certain serious nature. I don't know what it is. There's something there about that whole thing, about the difficulty people have. Because why is the paucity? Why are we talking about you two talking about sites that you want to see on the internet? You can only talk about each other, which I can say and concur. Why is that? It's a bit odd. And it's not just about us. It's about the whole thing of taking on this medium and being able to and to do with then the psychology and all sorts of bigger questions about people being prepared to change and everything. But I'm saying and thinking about the site, I think that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, I would actually prepare yourself for it to be difficult at first, Saj, though I hope it isn't. But my observation would be that the world has sort of changed. That, for one thing, people are accessing the internet using smartphones a lot more, like than any other means. And so, to me, the blog was kind of the blog worked best with the desktop era, with the laptop era, like if I visit the website on my phone, my crappy phone that I bought because it's like part of fitting in with the tyranny, like you have to own one of those things now. It's crap. Like it's just, pretty much just about any website is crap. Anything of any substance doesn't work very well with the smartphone, and so. To me, you've got like a couple of websites that get like a lot of people, but the smaller blogs really, really struggle. And I got an insight into that when I think at the start of 2020, there's a guy called Kurt Nimmo. I think he used to have something to do with InfoWars. I was never really a fan of his, but he wrote that he'd had enough and he was going to stop. And he said, "Yeah, I'm only getting like." He had the honesty to say, "Look, I'm only getting like 200 views a day." And I was really shocked by that because he was like I thought he had like quite a high profile, that guy, and that was his website. I don't think that was about him. I think that like basically if you're not on like Off Guardian or Un's review, you're basically in a pretty tough spot at this point in time.
Are you talking about what? Are you talking about just how it appears and how it looks and how it navigates and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that it's almost like the blogs were popular when desktops were popular, and now that desktops aren't really that popular, it's like it like Twitter is more of like a thing that people use, like things that are just quick and insubstantial. Okay. But obviously that's not universal. But I just think that's the trend.
Yeah, the one thing I'll say is that so this guy who's been really helping me out with all this stuff, he's really like gone to a lot of lengths to make the site to improve like navigation and accessibility and all that stuff, and to make it work really well on phones and tablets and stuff. Like, he had all that. I had none of that stuff in mind at all because I'm not design minded, so like I didn't know about any of that. But he's kind of really like gone to a lot of effort to make that work as best as optimally as he can. So hopefully that will work in my favor. But I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I hope for the best, but I trust him, and he's done a pretty good job. So
bless him. May I make one suggestion? I would do exactly the same site. I would mirror it up live. It goes live every time. Yeah, and I'm going to name drop a man called Nick Hughes, NICHUHUGES. I've written about him. And I spent a bit of time with him, and I know his site to do with alternative church, which is called Moot, and it was not Moot, and Nick Hughes, anyway, look him up, graphic designer, and he did Moot. I can remember, he's dead now. I can remember him at the time when he spoke to me. He just said go simple, and that was slightly his style. But that's what I would do. I would use text, normal, no layout, no nothing, and then do the tiniest thing and do it for printed matter, and make it a PDF or whatever, and just text and don't put any design in it, apart from like a little something in the corner, which is your Burning Blogger logo. And then I'd make that available. That therefore gives people that option, right? They look at the site or they click press print. That's what I consider be a way to go.
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Because you're so, I mean, Truthscoop.net has got a very basic kind of aesthetic, right? It's got a very basic design from.
It's the easiest one to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's not designed specifically for people out there in that respect. I haven't done it for as much as I've done it for other reasons as well. Do you see what I'm saying? So, yeah. Whereas you are making you're doing a website for other people, and so those sort of dynamics I think need to be. I would say, yeah. I would do a version of this anyway. I'm going to do a truthscooptext.net. I've got a WordPress just like yours, and I'll do that for me, so you can have a see. I think and then it's something I might get into using, which is to start printing the website. And maybe that's what I need to do, is to have the paper and the text in my hand as opposed to being on screen.
Well, you know, you've mentioned that. I'll tell you both something very funny. Is a couple of weeks ago, I got through the letterbox, and I have no idea who it's from, this printed pamphlet, essentially warning about the New World Order, and I've got it right here. Let me have a look at this. Yeah, it says "We are at war."
I love that.
The satanic.
Whoa, I like it right at the beginning. Can I just say
the satanic global government, some call the New World Order, which is run by very rich and powerful Satanists, are at war with us, and they are involved in the banking system, in the military-industrial complex, and blah blah blah. And this goes on for like 4 pages, right?
Yeah.
Some of it is typed, and then like towards the end, most of it is handwritten and kind of scrawled in ink. And I have no idea like who's posting this through people's letterboxes, or whether it was targeted at me specifically, or whether it's gone to every house or whatever. I have no idea, because there's no name on it. It's just, and towards the end, it's just rambling. It's just rambling madness. It's just like he's talking about abortions and
cover all the bases.
So if that's the road you want to go down, Mark.
Yeah. Well, listen. Well, yeah, I do. No, definitely, and street preaching as well. But that's another thing. I'm saying that I've got close to 1 or 2 people recently in my life, and observing them and thinking about it. I think people have a difficulty with reading things on the internet. Full stop. I would design my site for people to print things in really readable fashion, because I think that's what should happen. That's kind of, I guess I'm repeating myself, but yeah.
Well, I'm having PDFs on my site, on the new site. That's one thing I'm doing. I've got PDFs to download. So,
but I think you need to I would say need. I'm not saying that's good enough. I'm saying somehow I need to encourage people to do that. So the marketing exercise is to get people to want to print it out. I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Answer that question. I'm not even saying I know the answer necessarily.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting thought.
Yeah, Saj, have you looked at Off Guardian lately? Like, is that a site that you visit?
Yeah, I visit Off Guardian every now and then. I try and keep an eye on what people like Whitney Webb are doing. I can't really. There's 1 or 2 other people, and I go to Crimes of Empire regularly, and find nothing there. So nothing new anyway.
I'm sorry about that, but
so I even go back and read some of your old stuff that I've never read before. So
I reckon, like, if you this is just my suggestion. I think that your stuff like that website seems to have a pretty big page, a pretty big audience, and I think your stuff would really fit in really well there. Like I think you just have to send your stuff to them. I mean,
Yeah,
and then
they'd love you.
Like if you just get like one or two pieces on there, then that'll send a whole bunch of people to the new site. Like that will be a way that will work. Like that will work if you can manage that.
Can I jump in with a very oblique hip hop reference? I feel like saying to RA in the wrap up of last year, go easy on them though, don't stir them up. Which is what he said about when he was doing the wrap up. And I think you've got to be careful. No, I'm not. I'm joking slightly. But you'd rustle the feathers there, bro. I mean, you wouldn't. It depends what you sent them. I mean, they're going to look back anyway and see what you said. But I mean, if you sent them some, out of what you've written, it depends on what you come back in with. I'm not saying go easy on them, but yeah, I am.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a thought. I've been published on 21st Century Wire, but I was published on 21st Century Wire without my knowledge, because I think Vanessa Beeley just basically like posted a couple of my articles to the site, but did credit me and include me in it, but she just didn't tell me, so I didn't know. I just randomly saw it one day. I was like, oh, I'm on 21st Century Wire. It's interesting.
All the time in the world. Yeah. All the time in the world for her, even if she's slightly, sometimes has to be a bit oversympathetic to. No, she's a great woman. I really like that woman, and I've got 100% respect for her.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah, she's fantastic. James, just like, because I'm just thinking about something you were saying earlier about sort of almost feeling like you almost don't have a place, like in the current kind of landscape with it, that's all kind of gone to shit, right? In terms of like this kind of arena, this kind of subject area that we deal with, and I kind of feel the same way as well. And I kind of feel, but I sort of feel I've come around to the view that we basically like that it's better not even to have a place, but we kind of make our own place that's just ours, and if there's a few people that gather around it, that's great. And if there isn't, then we're still like just a voice kind of in the wilderness or whatever, and that's fine. You make the place that's yours, and you can have like a singular view or a singular perspective that you're coming from.
Yeah, that's a great attitude to have. Absolutely, that's the right attitude, 100%.
And then others might gravitate towards you because they share it, but they didn't have anywhere else, to go.
Yes. Yeah. No. That's the right attitude to have. I probably just had a more childish sort of, view. I guess that, I guess that in a way it probably, I was lucky and I didn't realize that I was lucky, and then like a couple of years later, there's a whole new generation of people, and they have a different point of view, and you sort of feel a little bit alienated or whatever. But yeah, I remember there was the Pizzagate thing was kind of like a turning point for me, because I just remember there was this really hardcore Trump supporting woman called Brittany Pettibone. I think she had quite a big Twitter thing. I don't think she's on there anymore. I think she got wiped out with the anyway. But she took an interest in the Hampstead thing, and she was talking about like the elite, and she was sort of saying like the father in that was like this elite guy, and I just tried saying to her, well, actually, the guy was unemployed and lived with his parents, like you're just not on the right track with that, and it didn't mean anything to her. You know what I mean? Like I just noticed there were people that just had this worldview that was not really going to be swayed by actual facts, really.
Facts.
And they were very like adamant about it, and also quite and were quite good at like selling themselves as well. And I guess I found that combination. That was an unhappy combination for me. Not that it was really worth getting bent out of shape about, but I look on BitChute and like the top, that's the home of the truth movement on the internet at this point in time. at least in terms of videos, like 100%. And like this Charlie Ward guy, like he was this guy that's like just gone from saying Trump was going to be inaugurated on in January, then in March, and he's still the top guy. Like he's still a top. Like, I've never even watched his videos.
There are scriptures justifying this behaviour, James. I can't say that it's rightly applied, but I can just tell you they at least got faith, mate. Listen, it's nuts, but they got faith.
Sure.
Misplaced and not a god.
Can I just say that QAnon is to conspiracy research literature and stuff what Charles Manson was to the counterculture movement of the 60s. It's the death of it. It's like it's the lowest ebb. It's the death of it, pretty much, is what I feel.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the triumph. It's the ultimate triumph of hope over reality, really. I mean, it's become that. But anyway, they do seem to have kind of abandoned the whole Trump is still president thing to at least a fair bit. But
well, can I mention what's happened? Is what has happened is that they have now decided after the Trump debacle to turn upon the poor, wretched losers, and conspiracy theories are now the rage within evangelical Christianity. They have actually really believed this to be the case because they believed that everything else they've ever thought like this has happened. So why didn't this happen? Okay,
yes.
So they believed other things that have not gone, like the rapture but they didn't buy that rapture in '88 thing because they were too young or something. This lot of bought a whole narrative of their faith. Well, that'd be like Israel tomorrow being taken over by Hezbollah. I mean, that doesn't happen. That reality is not in the Bible. It does not compute. Computer does not work out. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? See, have I got faith? Trump's not in, right? So how are they going to live with that?
Oh, they'll just transition into reacting to the the Biden administration mostly.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about people's sincere faith that God had spoken to the prophet. The prophet had told them. They got confirmation. They felt a warm thing in their heart. They read something one day on the bus. I don't know. They confirmed in their heart. There's millions of people. All I'm saying, no one's ever going to speak about this. I might as well say it. There's millions of people across America who invested their heart relationship into this. And now Trump that is a big deal. Compared to it, they've never done that before. I mean, you could say they did it with the thing you spoke about, the blood moon, but it ain't the same thing. No one was at the blood moon like they are Trump.
No,
you know what I mean? Right,
no, you're right.
Blood moon and then Trump. It wasn't that like Trump, they thought it might happen, and if it be God's will, it was God's will. Never have they been so outspoken about such a failed prophecy in our time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny, and it's very sad as well. And I mean, and the problem now is that if you're a conspiracy guy and you insinuate conspiracy theories of any kind, no matter how reasonable or legitimate, you're basically QAnon. Yeah, you're basically QAnon. So that's what I meant when I said it. That's what I meant when I said it was the Charles Manson of
yeah.
Because if you were hippie, then it's like
you're a far right extremist. You're basically at this point all non-zombies are far right extremists. It doesn't matter. Like I've never voted for anyone other than Labor in my life. I mean, I never contemplated voting for anyone other than Labor in my life.
Yeah.
Not that I've voted for a long time, but I'm not coming from that point of view at all. I never have been coming from that point of view at all. But that doesn't matter. I mean, that's not going to matter at all, unfortunately.
But there's no one writing about it. That's the thing.
Do you think this that whole area of conspiracy related kind of research and stuff like that is going to recover from this?
Yeah, in the long term, it will for sure. Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, there's a lot of veracity in a lot of it. It's just that it's just been led, down a bit of a a bit of a path. But for me, I didn't really waste any time on the QAnon thing. I guess I understood. I took a good one lesson. The lesson I took from the QAnon thing was that, and it was hilarious that right at the inauguration they were all saying, "Grab your popcorn, grab your popcorn," and that really summed it up for me. That the problem with QAnon was not that it was, right-wing nutters or anything like that. It was the fact that they believed that if you just sat back and did nothing, then everything would change for the better and everything would be all right. Whereas if you really think about the way things work in life, the only way that things will really change is when people change them, not when they sit back and watch and the government or some, special nice guys supposedly in the government change and fix everything. That's just not the way things are ever going to work. So I didn't even look at the details of, I know that they weren't 100% wrong. Like they said, some minor official was going to resign and some minor official resigned or something at some point. But it was like, it was right like a clock, broken clock, sort of being right every now and then. But that's that's probably the only really constructive thing I have to say about it is that things are never going to change from just you sitting back and just letting people, fix it for you. Whatever solutions that we ever come to, they will come from people at the, at a grassroots level. They won't come from above, from people in Washington, D.C. That's guaranteed.
But if you can't get off your arse and do a blog or something, or do something, or do something, or do something, you ain't doing nothing, so you don't believe it, or you believe that the future's foreknown existing and somehow it's all going to happen because you sit back and it happens because that's what happens in the books and the films or some shit. I don't know, but it's either you get up and do it or you just sit back. And you're right.
Yeah, I think you hit on something there that like the conspiracy scene became just this form of entertainment, and that was always melted, and that's fine. But the entertainment side of it, or the feel-good side of it, just came to dominate. Where it's actually kind of a grim picture if you look at the world. Not even looking at any kind of dark plots or anything. Just look at the trail of wreckage that the West has left over the past, since the Cold War. Really, the amount of people that we've killed. It's a lot of people. It's hundreds of thousands of people, indisputably, who've died at the hands of enlightened democracy. And people just want to have fun and watch a TV show about how the good guys win at the end is what it turned into.
Mm-hmm.
But no, there'll always be. William Cooper. I'm sure you're probably not a fan of his, but William Cooper's work really still stands up. And he was killed 20 years ago. The stuff that's of value will hang around.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sticks with me. I remember things he said, and yeah. The question about what you should be paying attention to over what you shouldn't is a very difficult issue. I spoke to someone in the market today and we commented about the internet, and I challenged him in the sense that I think we're in the age of missing information where we've got too much going on, and that's the big deflection. Again, back to our man who just died, the great hero, Ian. I heard him speak at the conference, which is mentioned. It's mentioned on the 21 Wire show that's about him. Patrick mentions it. The conference that he was speaking at, Patrick was speaking at, and he made the decision, right? He said, your march is a waste of time. Internet, whatever. You got to focus. I've chosen fracking. The man turned fracking upside down, if you're up for fracking, against fracking. Turned it upside down, one man, right? And I think we've got to do a bit more of that. And on the internet, you know what I'm saying? Because you're right in saying maybe you've got to clean up the house, be a bit more like those rappers that I mentioned within their circle. You've got to do a bit more of that. They bring out the fake rappers.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in principle, it's probably better to strike at something a little bit more.
Yeah. I mean, I just don't know how. I mean, I'm coming to a position of like an attitude of like just not giving a fuck anymore, really, about
Sure. What people
because
think.
yeah, because I used to try and be really nice, and like
Yeah.
because
Right,
I thought
right.
you know that's but you know being really nice and stuff, I got taken down anyway. So like, what the fuck difference does
Oh
it make
yeah,
if
yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah. That side, yeah.
you
But how
know
about
It's
being
so
nice about your
it's
peers and
kind of
compadres? Sorry, I
yeah.
don't mean to butt in. But how about your ability to talk about Tommy Robinson, and more importantly, the people who support Tommy Robinson, who might read your stuff, because that's the bit that you are hot at, and that's the bit
yeah
that is. You hear me?
yeah.
You're kind of naturally a polite and cautious person anyway, though. So like, it wasn't
Absolutely.
like you were kind of going with your character anyway. You weren't.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my inclination is to try and always be nice, but yeah, I don't know. When it comes to the certain, you know, these kinds of subjects and stuff, I don't know that that helps anything to be cautious and nice.
Have
Yeah,
a proviso. Have a thing at the top, right? It goes, listen, I'm going to come across a bit like this, right? La 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 la, blah blah blah. I mean it. I don't mean say that, but I say something that qualifies you. If I'm a little bit curt, you know, whatever.
yeah. No,
Say
I mean,
it. Say it, bro.
no,
Because I
it's
think
not that thing. It's not that thing of like I remember writing a not a disclaimer, but putting something at the top of an article saying like I'm talking about Zionism, and it's like, you know, by Zionism I don't mean Jews, I don't mean Jewish people, and you know,
I don't mean
I'm
that.
talking about political Zion. I'm talking about political Zionism and maybe some elements of religious Zionism, but I'm not talking about Jewish people. Jewish people are great, are cool or whatever. I say all that stuff, and then someone still comes on and goes, "Oh, you're an anti-Semite." It's like
Move from the particular, move from the particular to the general. Just do it one time, one big thing. Not about the Zionism. Just you. Just say like, listen,
Yeah.
I'll come across, bro. It's going to come across cutting. Sorry about that. You got to be told.
Yeah,
or whatever.
No, Saj, I think that that's the right thing to say, even though people will just completely ignore that and still accuse you of being, you know, an anti-Semite or a Jew hater or whatever. It's still the right thing to say because it's the truth.
Yeah.
Like,
say it anyway.
like you don't have any issue with Jewish people. You're not trying to attack Jewish people. I actually had an idea for like a piece about to try and explain Israel to people because it's very difficult for them. To me, it's just identity politics. When identity politics goes too far, it gets into very ugly areas. So I was thinking about like, imagine there was a nation called Amazonia, okay? It was a women's nation, an exclusive, you know, a nation for women, you know, by women, a women's nation. And the rallying cry for Amazonia was all the suffering that women have suffered at the hands of men. And undoubtedly women have suffered, you know, a lot at the, you know, and do to, you know, this day suffer a lot at the hands of men. So it's just like you take this identity politics and then like you arm it and you just take it too far and it just ends up. So they would be like, you know, imagine the women were like, men were demonstrating that they didn't have enough rights or that they were, you know, locked in this prison in, you know, like Gaza. And the women are like, oh, just remember what they've done to us, you know, just massacre them. You know what I mean? Like that time they, you know, they killed like 120 people in a day when Trump went and said they were moving the US embassy to Jerusalem. I just thought that like if I could find another identity group and just to play that story out with, you know, with just another group, you know, a group that also can claim that, you know, they've been hard done by. You can just see that once you get to that point, it's like you're not. I just think identity politics is really bad. It's not like I don't think that Jewish identity politics is specifically bad. I think all forms of identity politics are really damaging, and that's just one that's been taken to its logical, horrible conclusion where you've just got an in-group and an out-group. The fact that it's based on victimhood or whatever, it doesn't really change the fact that you're basically saying it's us against the world and everyone else can go to hell, basically.
Can I quickly throw something in? Sorry, because I don't think Sash wants to say that. Is part of what the internet can do is by inviting guests into interview them, right? You unite people through that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is now is that everything is a limited hangout. Everything is people. I mean, just an obvious example, Alex Jones is never going to get like a left-wing person on, or like a someone
He's over
from Black Lives Matter or something like that, and vice versa. Like,
because do you know what I'm trying to say, bro? That's what we need. We need people who are changing their mind, not people who are that all. Like that's the whole. It's all a bit stuck. You know what I mean? If we got together in a room tipping people, we'd all soon shake up if we had the right environment. But we can't do that, and we don't do that. We've never done that. But that's kind of what we're trying to facilitate through the internet. Yeah. And I certainly think something like what you're ever. I can't hear what I don't know quite what you're kind of thinking about people together, but that kind of thing you're thinking about. Certainly, it helps. Throw him in, Benjamin, all that. He just says, get away, piss off. And he has a gathering. He's got a few thousand. You could have 20 people. It would mean something. 20 commenters who are just kind of like connected.
Sure. What were you didn't quite finish your thoughts, Saj, about Alex Jones, and you were saying that he wouldn't. You were saying about limited hangout, and you kind of didn't. Quite
I mean, it's all. I was just using Alex Jones as an example because he's the high-profile example. But he's never going to get like some left-wing liberal on. He's never going to have like a.
Sorry, that's not true. Over the years, that is absolute nonsense. Richard Stallman, we talked earlier offline. The left wing. He's had loads of left wing people.
How far back are you going though? Because I'm talking about.
That's different. So just at least
don't go back. Don't go back. Yeah, don't go back 10 years. I mean now.
I'm talking about. He's had loads of left wing liberals on.
Oh yeah, in the past. Because he wasn't massively.
Yeah. Well, I was 10 years ago. That was still 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's the part. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. I'm just saying in that context. I'm saying, yeah.
But I'm saying it's the same the other way around as well. If you go to something that's like a left-leaning platform, they're not going to have like alt-right people on. And
well, the UNS has both on, but the UNS has to cut short. And I've still got the email where Fetzer did about Sandy Hook, and the publisher dropped the Sandy Hook thing, and there was a whole coon gang. No one paid attention, and Fetzer never went on that show. No what happened there. But the UNS, apart from the false flag thing, which they've moved massively down that line, they have left and right on there.
Well, they have very little. I mean, they have very little left on there, but
have enough though. Yeah, they're fucking. What do you mean little? There's little. What? There is only a little left out there.
Just like on that subject of identity politics, the point I wanted to make was I really feel like a real watershed moment was Occupy, right? And that was like 2011 or something like that. Where I'm not talking about Occupy like in terms of like whether that was. I'm not talking about what it was in terms of like organizationally or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that was a protest movement that I think did unsettle those in power in the establishment in Wall Street at the banks and stuff, because it wasn't there was no identity politics in that. It was framed as like
it was class politics.
It was framed as like the 99% versus the 1%, and that's terrifying. Whereas what they've done now is I feel that there has been a deliberate campaign to basically divide and conquer all of the anti-establishment arena into identity politics, and you divide them into the alt-right, and to the Black Lives Matter, into Antifa, into feminists, into whoever. I don't know who else there is, but like I feel like that was a deliberate campaign that we're now inhabiting. Is what they wanted. They wanted to disperse the crowd.
Yes, and you're not allowed to talk about class anymore.
Can I throw my?
Yeah.
Did you not read? I don't know whether you ever read. Right, I was a very surreal moment now when you say that. Looking back on it, in a flat in Ladbroke Grove, Portobello Road, and Mark's there with me, and he's struggling in his fight because he ends up getting some millions and puts away a lot of fascist cops in the Italian police force. He gets 300,000 on that one. I think he got a bit more later.
Yeah.
But he and me were talking about going. We were going to go up a few days before Occupy St. Paul's begun, we would have been first or second on the steps, because he ended up running the hub up there, right? The internet hub up there. You look him up, Mark Colville. And so I was right in the midst of that. But the people up there didn't know much, to be honest. I ain't got a clue. The best example is to... I was there. So, yeah.
Do you know this story? Say this is the guy that was beaten up at the...
Yeah. It's my mate.
By police at the Genoa.
Yeah. Yes. And he'd agree with me at the time. They knew shit. He was awake. I think he's more anarchist, but he kind of said he's socialist. He's met lots of, well-known people. He was in the Hatton Report and all that shit. I supported him through it. He's my man. Yeah. We're brothers, We got to know each other and boom, But the point is that it was co-opted. And if there had people like you around, called out the bullshit, it would have been sorted. But it was co-opted. But they need educating. They need educating. The people involved needed education. But I guess it was classist in one sense. I don't know. I think the class issue that you're bringing out, though, is very important. And the V-class stuff is phenomenal. And all that. We've got to think about that. But I hear you. I hear you.
What I'm saying is that they didn't like, the establishment didn't like the terms that was framed in as 99% versus 1%. So they had to, so it got changed into identity politics instead, to divide all these groups against each other, because they hate each other more than they hate the establishment. Yeah. Let's be honest. I mean,
can you see? I didn't know. I'll be honest about it. Even at 2011 or whatever it was, I did know, but I got to know it real big late, because I did a prayer walk in the biggest thing I've ever done in my life, prayer walk in the City of London, right, for about a year and a half after my sessions. I was a homeless worker, and the thing is, they were there. And I was talking about Goldman Sachs, pointing at Goldman Sachs, having like a little crowd, like I was at Speaker's Corner. It reminded me of Peter Schiff, who did it from the libertarian perspective when he went to the one. It's literally educating people. They were so unawake, it was just untrue. They really just said system bad, overthrow capitalism. That was it. It was honestly, it was pathetic. I don't think that undermines what you're saying in principle and the way it was responded to. I just think the participants were naive.
Yeah, they may well have been, but yeah, I think in America you see the identity politics is particularly strong, and one of the crazy things is this white privilege thing. It's like. Like I'm a big fan of black culture and everything, but it's like this thing of pretending that all white people in America are like these rich, upper class people. It's just not. It's just not factual. It's just not. And
no, amen.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, but I mean, it works. I mean, every side is doing it. I mean, it's the same as the people on the right blaming Antifa for literally every single thing that happens. It's like there's. Everyone's just, or blaming, or pinning everything on Soros, that George Soros, that goes the other way. It's just everyone just has their bogeyman that they've created, and they just pin everything onto the enemy.
Yes, absolutely, no doubt.
Which if you're the real string pullers or conspirators at the top, that's great, because you just deflect everything onto some other fictional kind of, or lower down kind of target.
Well, I just have them fight each other. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, but those are quite big power plays that are fighting. So I think that there are the bigger conspirators, which I believe are those families, like you spoke about them as old European blood or whatever. That lot primarily, I've named them, I think, on the Angafan one, where she has about 4 posts on secret societies on one of them, and that's from Whatnot and a bit from someone else. But the thing is, if that is where it is, they've got the City of London and Washington, and these power blocks are playing against each other, and they are the elite. But then there's still behind them, there's this more cult heart bit.
Yeah. All right, dude. I think we should be wrapping up about now.
Bless you, brothers, sisters. No sisters.
But this has been good. This has been good.
Yeah, no, thanks, Serge. It's been really great to talk to you. Thank you.
It's been good. I think we should do this more at some point as well. And So I did it. I had to do the bullshit intro, so I'm going to do a bullshit outro here as well, just to wrap it up. So I'll say that crimesofempire.com is where you need to go to see James's work, although it hasn't been. What's the latest thing you did, James?
Pandemic.
No, I did something on election day in America. I did this just really blog post thing on election day. It was actually hilarious because I was awake. I was awake when they stopped counting the votes because it was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. But yeah, no, sorry, I've just stuffed up.
Still current, still fresh.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And truthscoop.net is where you need to go to see Mark's work, right?
Yeah.
And burningblogger.com is where you'll need to go in a few days' time to see my stuff when that launches. And I don't have a date yet set, so it'll be in a few days' time. And so thanks to everyone for listening, even if it's only 3 of you.
Can I say one love, one up? You, Roy, but Bunny Whaler, one love, one up. Thank you, respect. You, Roy, and Bunny Whaler. Yeah.
Sure. And to everyone out there, be good to each other, be nice. That's my sign off. So okay.
Yeah.